Okay, great. So hi again, everyone, and thanks for attending our webinar today, this Thursday. It will be focused on advancements in lithium-ion battery technology and how the NuVant A3 Global products will enable you to kind of future-proof your business and work towards that circular economy, especially towards the hybrids and electric vehicles and the battery technology and advancements that are to come. So who are we? A3 Global, we are focused on the future of mobility for the circular economy, specifically in the area of hybrid and electric transportation solutions, and that will kind of focus around the equipment and technology that is available through NuVant systems. What is our goal? Our goal is to become the world leader in hybrid and electric aftermarket mobility solutions. We really want to allow our customers to provide solutions for the reuse, repair, and remanufacturing of the 8 million tons of batteries that are currently going to waste. This is a little example of what the kind of circular economy looks like. So starting from the resource extraction, we have the product design coming through manufacturing, using the products, recovery, and from there, we want to kind of insert ourselves into this reuse, repurpose, and the remanufacturing area before it gets to the landfill, the waste. So key features of this mobility revolution are connectivity. That's with our phones and keeping all of the internet and our kind of day-to-day life with connected within one another. We have the autonomy, so that is the self-driving cars and the manufacturing that comes with automating certain manufacturing processes. We have the shared economy, and finally, we're focused on what we call the electrification. So that is using batteries and kind of diverting away from our reliance on oil and fossil fuels. So we are looking at this kind of changing market right now. This is what the current kind of sales of Prius Camrys produce each year versus the Highlanders, RAV4s, Fusions, and Lexuses. Okay, so consumers are starting to have more choices, and we are starting to upgrade to these larger vehicles. So a lot of the hybrids, lithium-ion batteries are starting to be incorporated, and they're starting to be more hybrid drivetrains focused on the larger vehicles. Okay, because that's what the number one selling kind of vehicles in the U.S. I believe last year were like the RAV4 and the Ford trucks. I think the Ford F-150 might be the highest selling consumer vehicle. So EVs have started to come mainstream, and this kind of shows how many Tesla vehicles are starting to be sold. So again, things are changing, especially with our most recent newsletter. You can see how a lot of the policy and government incentives are changing the way that we approach electric and ICE vehicles and what we can kind of decipher of how the market's going to look. But if you just extend this graph, you can see that it's on an upward trajectory. So this is one of the possible outcomes and future looking towards the market. And with these electric vehicles, one thing that we want to kind of focus on is how the money is all in the battery. Okay, so this is a little breakdown of how the cost of the battery relates to the cost of the vehicle. So you can see for the Cadillac Escalade IQ, about 17.3%. Okay, so the 22,500 is the cost of the battery of the whole total 130,000. So going forward, you can see that these different percentages range from 17, 13, all the way up to 31% in the case of this Dodge Ram. So that is 25, almost 26,000 of that 81,000 is the cost that comes from the battery. Okay, so looking at lithium-ion batteries, I'm gonna kind of go through how a lithium-ion battery works, what the future holds for lithium-ion advancement, lithium metal batteries, and what that kind of means for the future state of both electric and hybrid vehicles. Okay. So this is kind of just a simple explanation of how a lithium-ion battery works. Okay, so on what we consider the positive electrode, we have the lithium metal oxide. So this will vary. This lithium metal oxide, there are different chemistry formulas that will that will be what makes up what we call the positive electrode. On the negative electrode, generally for our batteries that we were going to discuss, all of the lithium, that is made up mostly of just graphite. Okay, so the graphite allows for the lithium ions to fill within. So during discharge, okay, the electrons travel through an external circuit from the negative electrode to the positive, and the lithium ions move across this pore separator, which is right here. This is that sponge material you can see, and it allows for the lithium ions to move across, but it does not allow for electrical conductivity. So the lithium ions move from the anode here to the cathode during discharge. Okay, that is what happens in, we'll say, kind of the natural process. So if you have a battery, over time it will discharge, and when that happens, the lithium ions move across from the anode to the cathode. During charge, the electrons move the opposite way. Okay, so they travel from the positive to the negative through an external circuit, which is what provides the electricity. And the lithium ions then move across the pore separator and intercalate back into that graphite lattice that we discussed. So during charge, the lithium ions go from positive to negative, and during discharge, they go from the negative to the positive. Okay. The different types of chemical formulas and compositions that make up this lithium metal oxide cathode are kind of shown here. So there are really four main types, six that are shown here, but the first four are kind of what are found primarily in smartphone devices and electric vehicles these days. So starting on the left, we have the lithium cobalt oxide. Okay, and down here you can see the little performance map that shows what the kind of advantages of each of these chemical compositions and materials, what advantages they have compared to one another. So for lithium cobalt oxide, you have high specific energy. That's the 150 to 200 watt hour per kilogram. But you do have a okay cycle life, but cobalt is expensive. Okay, so that is one of the main factors here. And a lot of these lithium cobalt oxide LCOs are used in smartphones and laptops. The LMO, the lithium manganese oxide, is kind of similar in composition, but we have the manganese instead of the cobalt, and that handles the higher currents and higher power as well. Oftentimes, that LMO is blended with the NMC to increase the specific energy and the lifespan of the battery. And in general, yeah, these are found in like power tools, medical devices. They're also found in the first Nissan Leaf Gen 1 and the original Chevy Volt. Okay. With the third one, the NMC, so that is a combination of nickel, manganese, and cobalt. Okay, that is very high energy density. You can see here, you're hitting the 220s for watt hour per kilogram, and that is generally this one is kind of being used in all applications now, especially EVs, energy storage, and that is what is found primarily in the Ford Fusion Hybrid, the second generation Nissan Leafs. And again, you can kind of mix combinations of these to achieve, what your what characteristics you're looking for in the final application. So the fourth material we're going to talk about is the NCA. So that is nickel, cobalt, aluminum. It's similar in performance to the NMC, but there is a higher risk of uh, fire, so that there's a higher safety risk. You can see the safety down here is kind of low. You do have that high specific energy, and the cost is actually going to be more than the previous three. So this is the material, the cathode material that's found in the Tesla Model X's and Y's right now. The fifth one, the lithium iron phosphate, that is probably it's lower in voltage, which means it's going to be lower in your specific energy. Okay, so voltage really determines how high you can go in terms of energy density and specific energy. But the lithium iron phosphate, it's very safe. It's very tolerant to charging and overcharging, but you do have that lower specific energy that I discussed. So you're gonna have more of that battery. It's gonna have to be heavier within the vehicle, and you do have a higher self-discharge rate. Okay, so generally these are used for either within a vehicle like the Tesla Model 3, um, or it's used for solar storage where the weight of the battery is not going to matter as much. And the last battery type here is the lithium titanate, which is even lower in nominal voltage for 2.4 compared to 3.7, 3.3s, and that is the safest type of chemistry, but it is generally used in industrial equipment, things where weight doesn't matter as much. It's used to power street lamps and mostly those uninterrupted power supplies also. Looking at the current market in 2023, you can see that NMC took up the most, the largest area of this pie. And then you have lithium iron phosphate, which again is, the safest, has high, lower specific energy, but because it's safe and it's easier and cheaper, that's why it occupies this area here. And then you have cobalt oxide and all of the others. But that NMC is really the chemistry type that's coming up. And over on the right, you can see the typical specific energy, and that's the watt hour per kilogram, right? So how much energy you can get per kilogram of material. And you can see that the NCA is the highest. You have a couple of the NMC, LCO here, and then you'll find our well-known nickel metal hydride and lead acid down here. Okay, so what does the future look like? This is the lithium-ion batteries that we've discussed. They've been on the market for a long time. What are people trying to get to? So what all the companies, vehicle companies, and battery technology companies are trying to get to is what we'll call the holy grail of batteries, which is the solid state. Okay, and solid state, what they want to kind of achieve a lot of these advantages over the current lithium-ion batteries, such as higher energy density. They want to store more energy. They want to weigh less. You don't want to lose energy during extreme temperatures, and you want to be able to fast charge, right? So charging quickly is more possible in the solid state battery than it is in the current lithium-ion battery chemistries. So what is a solid state battery? This diagram kind of shows, it's a simple diagram, but it kind of shows what it looks like. Over on the left, This is a depiction of the conventional battery type. Um, any of the lithium ion, any of the nickel metal hydride that we discussed, you have the anode cathode with the middle kind of separator, right? This is generally a type of polymer or a porous material, and the rest of it is filled with liquid. Okay, so you don't actually feel the liquid like slosh around, except in lead acid batteries you do because they have a lot more liquid. But all of the current lithium-ion batteries and nickel metal hydride have liquid inside, even if it's um, a smaller amount than you would expect, but that is required to allow the ions to flow from side to side, right? The ions need that liquid to move. And in the case of lithium ion, it is an organic electrolyte. Okay, that's why it's flammable. And a lot of times, if you have any puncture between the two sides in between this electrolyte, that's how you'll get the kind of thermal runaway or fires. In terms of solid state, what they want to discover, it really all depends on the middle, right? That solid electrolyte. Generally, it's going to be they're looking at ceramics mostly, ceramics that can allow ion transport across from the anode and cathode, but it also must be robust, it must be porous. And a lot of electric vehicle and just vehicle manufacturers are investing in these companies right now. One example is Factorial Energy. This is a company that is actually based near me in Boston. It's in Billerica, which is where my wife is from. That's her hometown. They just announced that they successfully validated these automotive-sized solid-state battery cells. Okay, so that means that these cells have 375 watt-hour per kilogram. That's more than double the current state of lithium-ion right now. The fast charging, they can go from 15% to 90% in 18 minutes, and has a very large operating range. So right now they're saying that they've validated these cells. However, it's going to be a ways off right now. You are looking at validating cells, but then you have to, perform in a vehicle. You have to get the manufacturing down right, and tune all of the different electronics to fit what they need. Another example of a company with a recent advancement is QuantumScape. So this is a company, they're focused mainly on the separator right now, what they call the Cobra separator. They said that they just achieved baseline production. It's a ceramic type separator, shown here, this white material. And that baseline production is high throughput, continuous manufacturing. However, the battery that they're trying to build isn't actually lithium ion, it's known as a lithium metal. Okay, and that's because their design, they call it anodeless cell design, which means that during the discharge state, this is the cathode, there is no anode. The anode's like basically just on the other side. There's nothing there. It's anodeless. However, during charge cycles, the lithium ions move across that separator and then start plating. Okay, so they start building this anode structure that's all just lithium metal. Okay. One other company, I just want to make sure we understand that that is a lithium metal battery as opposed to a lithium ion. So it still will have very high energy density. However, it is kind of a different mechanism and different material altogether. We also have this company, Ion Storage Systems, and this is also recent. There was an article in, I think, the Wall Street Journal, but they were inspired by hydrogen fuel cell technology, and that's kind of what I worked on before here at Northeastern. In hydrogen fuel cells, especially high temperature fuel cells, you have a porous, rigid ceramic separator. Okay, and that allows for hydrogen ions kind of move back and forth. But in this case, that company was focused on hydrogen fuel cells, and they decided to kind of repurpose their kind of techniques and way of thinking for the lithium-ion battery separator. And in this case, the porous rigid ceramic separator that allows for that expansion and contraction that you find right now that's an issue with solid state. But they are kind of focused more on consumer electronics, smaller size, smaller structure. So this technology, once they kind of achieve manufacturing, they might be able to advance that up to automotive. But right now, this is still in the kind of beginning phases, and it's more, again, focused on consumer electronics. So what does this all mean? So we're looking here at three different types of vehicles and battery technologies, right? So you have the solid state, where right now, these are just a couple headlines. So BYD is a Chinese company. They are going to try to mass produce on large scale by 2030. Most experts and professionals say, yeah, we're not going to get any solid state batteries really in vehicles for another 5 years. Hyundai and Kia said they pumped the brakes on the solid state batteries until we get there. And so, solid state batteries are still a number of years away. Some companies are more optimistic and they're saying, 3 years, 2028, 2029, but 2030 is the most likely, goal there. In terms of electric vehicles for the market, there's some. So the larger electric vehicles are starting to not sell as well, and that's mainly because they are so expensive. And so a lot of news outlets, it's kind of conflicting because this is only just 2 days apart, but June 24th and June 26th. But yeah, they're saying that high-end cars aren't selling as much, but EV sales are on the verge of acceleration. So again, they will be electric vehicles, even though they're not selling as quickly as they were the past couple of years, they will continue on. An interesting thing to note is the hybrid vehicles. So hybrid vehicles still continue to rise even as the electric and plug-ins shares remain flat. Okay. And a couple of news articles are talking about how automakers, car buyers, they are looking more at hybrids now because they want the versatility of being able to use your ICE engine, not have to charge all the time, the infrastructure, and the high prices of EVs are, kind of keeping some people, prohibiting them from purchasing. So what's the takeaway? The takeaway is that, hybrid electric vehicles, those batteries within them will continue to require servicing for a number of years. Okay. And generally, with NuVant, we've had our EVc, which allowed for reconditioning of the nickel metal hydride modules in batteries. And right now we are focused on our LVC system. Okay, so the LVC, it is based on the technology that we developed for the EVc, but it can cycle and test these lithium-ion cells and HEV batteries too. So it can do both nickel metal hydride and lithium ion. Okay, so it's kind of our newest product. It will allow the users to work on both electric vehicles, plug-ins, and current hybrids. Okay. There are 40 channels, which means that you're getting 33% increase in output. We are looking at different types of lithium-ion cells. Right now, we have used this product and successfully tested on 3 or 4 different vehicle battery types, including the Toyota Camry, the new hybrid with lithium-ion, the Ford Focus, and we're looking at a couple plugins right now, eventually moving all the way up to the electric vehicles. But those batteries are a little larger, and so that's kind of our next step there. So it'll function the same or similar to the EVc. You will really have to connect to each cell or module, run the full battery pack, and it will test and tell you which ones you need to replace, or you can just recondition if it's nickel metal hydride fully. Okay. So this is the product that will, stick around and help all of the current shops, be able to service and remanufacture all of the electric and hybrid vehicles moving forward, okay, for a number of years. So if you have any questions, we have our website, both E3 Global, NuVant.com, where we have resources such as manuals, data sheets. We have our blog, monthly newsletter. You can sign up for that. And yes, I would like to take any current questions that we have. But thank you for attending and enjoying the webinar. Okay, Kyle, do we have any questions?
Not seeing any in the chat so far, but if anyone has any questions, they can also unmute their mic, or they can drop it in the chat as well. Just give you maybe a minute to get your thoughts together if you have anything to say.
Okay, great. Well, we will be able to reach out to each of you with some more information on the EVc and how it can help. Please. Oh, yes, we have a question from Nick. Go ahead. Looks like you are unmuted. Nick, I cannot hear anything though. Your mic might be off. You could type your question into the chat. Okay, nothing's coming through. Well, I guess we will also reach out afterwards. So please reach out to us because we cannot hear you at this point.
It will follow up with a recording of this webinar as well. So you can feel free to email me your question there, or you can also reach out to Jonathan directly. Oh, there we go.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone, again. And I hope this was informational. And please let us know if you have any questions. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, I can see your question, Nick. I'm going to speak with Jonathan, get you to get you an answer to that. But yeah, that I'll be responding to you shortly. Thank you very much for your participation. We'll be talking soon. Thank you.